I thank the gentlelady from Missouri for yielding time. And, Mr. Speaker, it's worth noting that this effort to combat human trafficking in the United States, in my opinion, is led by the ladies of the House on both sides, the Republicans and the Democrats. It's obvious the spunk of my friend from Missouri and all of the others who have spoken on these pieces of legislation, and they will speak later. There are 12 bills, Mr. Speaker. They're bipartisan bills on one subject. As long as I've been here, I've never seen so much attention by all members of the House on both sides of the aisle moving and trying to fix a problem as this. Pieces of legislation. Many of those passed last year. They just never got voted on in the Senate, and we're bringing them up again. And once again, it's the ladies. I think that America owes a great gratitude to us. Kind of like my grandmother used to say, there's nothing more powerful than a woman who has made up her mind, and the ladies of the House have made up their mind on this issue of trafficking, and they're not going to tolerate it, and neither are the rest of us. It's ironic to me that this tremendous amount of legislation, this important subject, is getting so little play in the national media. It seems that the media in America, I guess, is more concerned about the disappearance of air in footballs than they are about the disappearance of America's children that are being trafficked across the United States. This is the worst thing that is taking place among our youth, is the slavery that is happening to them, the runaways, the throwaways, and the stowaways of America's children are disappearing into this scourge of slavery, as it has been rightfully called. Many of us remember how we got involved in trying to prevent this. My first experience was meeting a little girl in Peru at the age of 7. Her name is Lily. Lily could not speak because of the numerous assaults that had been committed against her before she was rescued. And it's not just kids in South America or Central America or overseas. It's kids, it's America's children that are being trafficked. We have to make it clear that these young girls primarily that are on the streets, that are being sold and bartered by these slave masters, these are not criminals. These are not prostitutes. These are victims of crime. And America needs to change its focus and its understanding that when we see that occurring, that person is a victim, not a criminal. And as been mentioned, this is one of the leading ways that criminal organizations are making money, because in drug trade, you got drugs, you sell them one time. Plus the risk of apprehension is greater for drug sales than with selling of kids. Children can be sold multiple times a night, and they are. And when the trafficker's captured, very, very often, nothing happens. So that is why this lucrative trade continues to make money. But it also continues to make money because there is a demand in this country for this scourge. These men, primarily, that abuse children are criminals. They're sex offenders. They're child molesters. Some call them Johns. They're not Johns. John was a good guy. He's in the Bible. Why would we call them that? They are child molesters, and we need to recognize them for what they are. We need to know who they are. Their names need to be published, and they need to go to jail for what they do, because we got to go after the demand. That's why I've introduced the Justice for Victims of Trafficking Act along with my friend Carolyn Maloney from New York. Carolyn Maloney, New York Democrat, and a Texas conservative Republican. That is just about as bipartisan as you can get, Mr. Speaker. We are separated by a common language, to coin the phrase. But on this issue, like most members of the House, we are united that we're going to stop this. So this bill does a few things. It goes after the trafficker, the slave master. It helps law enforcement capture them and put them in jail. That's why we build prisons. Then it goes after the victim, the child, rescues them and restores them and finds a place for them. Did you know, Mr. Speaker, that in the United States there are about, Humane Society, about 3,000 animal shelters, and we need them all. I got 3 Dalmatians. I got one of them from a shelter in Dallas. I call them the weapons of mass destruction. We need those shelters. But did you know, according to Shared Hope International, there are only about 300 beds for minor sex trafficking victims in the United States. That ought not to be. They need more places to go when the police rescue them. And God bless the police. Many times when they find these children, they know they're sex trafficking victims, but there's no place to put them. So they put them in the juvenile justice system. Not a good idea, but that's the only place they're safe. We need to find residence and homes for them. That's what this bill does. And the third thing it does, it goes after the demand. The person in the middle, the customer that abuses children, the rapist. We're going after those guys, Mr. Speaker. The days of boys being boys is over. Those people are going to be arrested and prosecuted for the crimes that they have committed. Mr. Speaker, I would like to ask unanimous consent to introduce into the record some of the numerous anti-trafficking organizations that have helped all of us in this legislation.
Without objection.
I call these groups the victims' posse that helps us in this issue. The last thing I want to mention before I yield back, and I can tell that the gentlelady from Missouri wants her time back, and I appreciate the time. Mr. Speaker, I used to prosecute criminals, and I was a judge in criminal court 22 years. Sexual assault is what it's called now. But the crime really is rape. It's rape of America's greatest resource, children. We cannot tolerate this. We ask, why are we even here? Well, I can tell you why we're here. We are here to make sure that all Americans, including American children, and those immigrants that have been sold into the United States, are protected from crimes like rape. Mr. Speaker, children are not for sale, and I'm glad to see that the House is making sure that they will not be for sale in the future. And I thank the lady for the time, and I'll yield back, and that's just the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.